Welcome to the fourth module in our pre-sales course. In this module, we will learn about how to create estimates for your project. So let's get into what we will be learning. By the end of the module, you will learn bottom-up versus top-down estimate, when to use each, three estimation techniques, t-shirt sizing, story points, analogous estimating, how to build a risk register and identify the threats before they happen, how to calculate contingency and present it transparently, how to defend your estimates to skeptical clients, how to structure payments, milestones tied to deliverables, the role of purchase order as your final contract, common estimation mistakes and how to avoid them. Here's what happens with bad estimates. You quote $300,000. It costs $600,000 to deliver. You lose money, your team is burnt out, the client is angry, relationships are destroyed. Or you quote $500,000, the client shops for a cheaper deal, you build the deal, you lose the deal, someone else wins at $350,000 and discovers it actually $7,000 project. They go out of business. Here's what happens with accurate estimates. Your quote $400,000 based on disciplined estimates and a 20% contingency buffer. You communicate the why behind the numbers. Client feels confident. You deliver on time and on budget. Client is happy. You make profits. Everyone wins. The difference is method, not guessing, not pessimism, not optimism. Estimation has a structure. Follow it. The layer one of this structure is decompose the work. Before you estimate, you need to know what you are estimating. This is decomposition, breaking the project into pieces small enough to estimate. Top level, building a forecast system that's too vague, can't estimate. Decompose it into blocks as follows: data engineering, feature engineering, model training and tuning, API development, deployment, monitoring, testing. But this is still too vague. So we decompose it further. Data engineering, extract historical flight data, transform, feature engineering in pandas, load to PostgreSQL, data validation, data documentation. Each of this is estimable. Layer 2 is choose your estimation technique. Now you have small pieces. How do you estimate each? There are three techniques. Technique 1 is t-shirt sizing. You estimate by size. XS, S, medium, large, extra large, double XL. This is quick, used early when you have low confidence. And usually the mapping to hours goes something like this, but this is not exactly the way. This is just a rough estimate. So let's say we say small will take 8 to 16 hours, medium will take 16 to 32 hours, large will take 32 to 64 hours, and so on. And you can have this sort of mapping beforehand, and you can still use t-shirt sizing. But here, make sure that you only use this when you have low confidence and you don't really know how many hours will be taking. The pros is it's fast, good for high level planning, and the cons is are low precision, works best for team estimation, reduces individual bias. Technique 2 is story points. You estimate by complexity, not hours. Story points abstract away the who doing the work. The small or 8 points is the baseline normal task. Other tasks are relative to that baseline. Mapping to efforts. This is where this varies by team, but typically 1 point is 1 to 2 hours trivial, 2 points is 2 to 4 hours, simple. Something like 13 points would be like extremely complex thing, or 20 points is very complex, and it needs to be taken into consideration that it should be broken down further. You need to convert to hours. If your team's velocity is 8 points per 40-hour week, 75 points divided by 8 points per week, that is 9.4 weeks. The the benefits are it incorporates complexity and risk, works well for agile teams, reduces single person bias, and the cons are requires team calibration, can be gamed if not disciplined. Technique 3 is analogous estimate. You estimate based on similar past projects, right? We built a similar forecasting system for airline X. It took 24 weeks. This project is roughly 80% of that complexity. So 24 weeks divided by zero point 0.8, that's 19 weeks. This works if you have accurate historical data on similar projects. The pros is grounded in reality. If you have good historical data, it's very accurate. The cons are only works if you have comparable projects, requires good record keeping. When to use which? T-shirt sizing is early discovery, pre-proposal, rough estimates, and story points is agile projects, iterative delivery, high uncertainty. Analogous is when you have comparable historical projects and lower uncertainty. The layer 3 is building a risk register. Now you have your estimate, let's say 16 weeks for $400,000, but you haven't accounted for risk. Risk register identifies threats. Risk has three components. Likelihood. How likely is this to happen? High, medium, low. Impact. If it happens, how bad? High, medium, low. And mitigation. What can we do to prevent it? Layer 4 is calculate contingency. Contingency is your buffer, your cushion, not padding to make clients think you are being conservative. Real buffer for real risks. Now, here's a calculation method. So let's say base estimate is 16 weeks, $400,000 for development effort. Risk contingency, identify your top 3 to 5 risks. For each risk, estimate the impact if it happens. Example, if severe plus 2 weeks, right? Then let's say if approach fails plus 4 weeks, if complex plus 1 week, if engineer leaves plus 3 weeks, right? And then you weigh out the probabilities, right? Uh, in the manner I have shown on the screen. So if we see the total contingency is roughly around 2 weeks. But here's the thing, risks are not independent. If one happens, other might happen too. The better method is use a percentage based contingency. So a based contingency looks like this. A high certainty project, well defined scope 10 to 15%, medium certainty 20 to 25%, low level certainty project 30 to 50%. So let's say Cargo is a medium certainty, scope is well defined, some unknowns are there, and tech is familiar. So contingency is 20%. Base estimate is 16 weeks. Contingency of 20% adds roughly 3 weeks. So the total estimate becomes 19 weeks. For budget, base cost was $400,000. Contingency of 20% would add up to $80,000. So $480,000 is your estimate. Here's the critical part. Do you present to the client as $480,000 total or 400,000 for development, 80K for contingency? Right answer, present it explicitly. Base estimate is $4,000 for development. Contingency is 80K. The total is 480K. This contingency is not profit, it's insurance. If we don't hit these risks, we deliver early and under budget. Why? Because if you bury the contingency in the total and the client later learns about it, they think you are padding. Why is it 480K when you estimated 400K? If you are transparent upfront, we estimated 400K, we added 20% contingency for risk. Here are the risks X, Y, Z. We are being conservative to avoid surprises. Client respects that and they understand. Layer 5 is present and defend. You have decomposed work, estimated estimates using multiple techniques, identified risks, calculated transparent contingencies, and now it's time to present. Let me show you how to build a robust risk register. A risk register has these columns: unique identifier, description, what could go wrong, category, technical resources, client side market, etc., likelihood, impact, risk score, owner, mitigation strategy, contingency, and status. In step 1, we identify risks. Where do risks come from, right? Technical risks, let's say new technology we haven't used before, complex algorithms or architecture, integration challenges, performance requirements we are unsure about. For example, will hierarchical reconciliation actually achieve zero error, or will this be rounding issues? Then we have the resource risks: key people leaving, team members not having required skills, availability constraints. Example, if our lead data scientist leaves, we don't have immediate backup. Then there are client side risks: data unavailability or poor quality, delayed decisions, changing requirements, IT team not ready for integration. Example, cargo code's historical data might be corrupted or incomplete. Schedule risks: underestimation of effort, dependencies on other projects, and external delays, approvals, access. Example, if data access is delayed, we can't start modeling on schedule. Then there are commercial risks: scope creep, client budget cuts, payment delays. Example, client asks for feature not in scope mid project. Then the step 2 is assess each risk. For each risk, we take likelihood into impact is equal to risk score. Using a 3 by 3 matrix like shown on the screen, for each risk, how do we prevent it? Mitigation is proactive. You do something to reduce the likelihood of impact. Example mitigation: pair programming on core components. Two people know critical code. Strong code documentation, pre-negotiated staffing, augmentation contracts with backup firm. Cross-training on core domain, forecasting, ML. Result: if person leaves, project slows down but doesn't stop. Step 4 is contingency plan. If mitigation fails and the risk happens, what's your plan? This is your emergency response. Example contingency: if the data is very poor, contingency is allocate plus 2 weeks for data cleaning. If very bad, recommend data migration, that is phase 1.5. Cost impact plus $50,000 for additional data work. Step 5 is monitor and update. Risk register is not static, it evolves. Weekly review active risks, are mitigations working, any new risk emerged, update status. The risk register is not about being pessimistic, it's about being prepared. Good projects don't skip risks. They identify them, plan for them, and execute mitigations. That's how you stay on schedule. So you present your estimate, client pushes back. Here's how to defend it without folding. Pushback. Your competitor quoted $300,000. You are at $400,000. Why so much more? Your response, great question. Scope is everything. What specifically is included in their quote? Client, they said same as you, forecast system. Let me ask more specifically. Do they include a POC to validate the approach? Do they include hierarchical reconciliation? Do they include production monitoring and alerts? What's their accuracy target? What happens if they miss it? Often, when I dig, I find their POC is not included. Their reconciliation is naive. Their monitoring is basic. So, their $300,000 is really build something. If it doesn't work, we will fix it later. Our $400,000 is build something that works, validate upfront, ship with confidence. Which would you prefer? Usually they prefer ours. Pushback 2 is, can you cut this? Can you just cut 2 weeks of the timeline? You respond, absolutely, we can explore that, but let's understand the trade-off. Then you pull out the decomposition. The longest phase is model development and tuning, which is around 4 weeks. That's where we optimize to less than 5% MA. If we cut 1 week from there, option A, we reduce testing or validation from 1 week to nothing. We ship faster, but with higher risk of accuracy miss. Option B is we use faster but less accurate algorithms. We hit timelines but miss accuracy targets. Option C, we use more engineers, which is expensive. We can parallelize some work. Net savings would be zero point 0.5 weeks, cost increase of $50,000. What's your preference? Usually say, Usually they say, forget it. 4 weeks is fine because they realize either fast or good, not both. Pushback 3, this looks expensive. Do we really need all this? You respond, let's ground this in ROI. You are losing $12 million per year due to forecasting errors. We are asking for $400,000 to fix it. That's 1.2% of your annual loss. Payback in less than 2 weeks. If we cheap out and you don't get the accuracy you need, you have wasted $400,000. But if we do it right and it works, you save $12 million this year alone. Is the extra investment worth the certainty? They nod. Of course it is. Pushback 4 is, what if you go over budget? You respond, we have a 20% contingency buffer built in, which is $80,000. That's our insurance for identified risk. But here's how we prevent that. We do a POC first, we validate the approach before committing to full deployment. We do weekly sprints. Every Friday, we review, are we on track? Are we hitting our accuracy targets? Are we behind budget? We have a formal change request process. If the client asks for anything new, we file a change request. You see the cost and the timeline impact upfront. If we hit the risks and the contingency gets used, we communicate that immediately. We don't hide overruns until the end. So the chance of going significantly over budget is low. And if we do, we know about it early. Client feels confident after hearing this and they get to know that you are being disciplined. Pushback 5, can we defer some of this to phase 2? You respond, absolutely. That's what the MVP approach is all about. Phase 1, core functionality, $400,000, 16 weeks. Phase 2, real time alerts, mobile app, integration with your staff scheduling system, another $300,000, which is 12 weeks. Phase 1 is the foundation. It delivers ROI immediately. Phase 2 adds feature. What would you prefer? Deliver phase 1 as planned, or would you like to reduce phase 1 scope? If they want to reduce, sure, let's talk about what we could differ, but we want to make sure that we deliver in phase 1 is actually used by your operation team. Usually, they say no, just keep phase 1 as planned. We will think about phase 2 after we see phase 1 working. Smart move on their part. Then there's the art of defending an estimate. There are three principles: transparency, show your work, show the decomposition, the risks, the contingencies, no magic. Anchoring to the value, everything comes back to ROI. This costs $400,000. You make back the investment in 2 weeks. Is that worth it? Discipline, you don't fold on price just because they ask. You hold the line because you believe in your numbers, but you are open to scope or timelines trade offs. When you do this, clients respect you. They might negotiate, but they understand you are a professional, not desperate. The estimate is done. Now comes the payment. How do you structure it so you get paid and the client feels secure? Don't ask for 100% upfront. Don't wait until the end. Three-way split tied to milestones. The way this works is kickoff payment 20% covers initial work, discovery, requirements, TDD, team onboarding, pro- protects you if client cancels immediately. MVP payment 30% delivered real value, client is using the system, they are happy enough to pay more. Final payment, you deliver everything, all requirements met, client signs acceptance, you get final payment. This aligns incentives. You don't get paid until they are happy. They see progress before paying more. The PO is your financial contract. It says Cargo Co agrees to pay $400,000 plus contingency, which is $480,000 for this project. It's binding. If the client doesn't pay, you have legal resources. PO should include statement of work, what you are delivering, reference to the SOW document. Then comes the price, the total amount, then the payment terms, then change management, termination clause, and acceptance. Client benefits, clear pricing, no surprises, milestone based payments. They don't pay for work they don't receive. Clear deliverables. They know exactly what they are getting. The vendor benefit, guaranteed payment, assuming client doesn't default. Legal resources if client doesn't pay. Clear change management, no scope creep without payment. Here are the common issues. Client wants to avoid signing PO. Can't we just start? We will do the PO later. You say, I understand the pressure to start, but the PO is how we stay aligned. It's not adversarial, it's just document. Let's get it signed by this date. We can start preliminary work while we are getting it signed. Usually, they will sign. It takes 3 to 5 days. Issue number two is client wants to negotiate payment terms. Can we pay it all at the end? When we are done, then we will pay. You say, I appreciate that perspective, but but industry standard practice is milestone based. Here's why. And you show them the kickoff payment protects us if something happens and the project gets cancelled. MVP payment gives us confidence you are satisfied with the approach before we finish. Final payment ensures you are both happy with the result before money changes hands. This is standard across consulting, software development, etc. I am not flexible on this term. They accept it's reasonable. Issue number three is client delays payment invoice due 30 days after milestone one. Day 45 passes, no payment. You email the Jane Doe, uh, Jane, invoice XYZ for milestone 1. Payment of 80,000 is now 15 days overdue. Per the PO, payment is due net 30 days from invoice date. Can you confirm when we can accept payment? This is impacting our project schedule and the team allocation. If payment is delayed beyond 60 days, we may need to pause work until the account is clear. Let me know how I can help expedite this. Thanks. Usually, this resolves within a few days. If not, escalate this to your financial team. And do not continue work if you are significantly past due. That's how you get burned. Let me show you the estimation mistakes I see constantly. Mistake number one is optimistic estimate. You estimate we can do this in 8 weeks. Reality, you hit 2 bugs, client delays decisions, data quality is worse than expected. Actually, it takes 14 weeks. Result, you are 6 weeks late, client is angry, your reputation is damaged. The problem, you estimated best case scenario, not realistic scenario. Better, identify your assumptions. And this assumes data is available week 1, zero major bugs, and client response to decisions within 24 hours. When those assumptions break, and they will, you have runway. Mistake 2, skipping the decomposition. You estimate machine learning systems $400,000. That's a number with no justification. Client can't verify it. They get nervous. Is this too high, too low? How do I know? Better, you break down everything. Data engineering, $80,000. Model development, $150,000. API, $60,000. Testing, $50,000, etc., etc. And that's how you get the total of $400,000. Now they can examine each piece. They understand the calculation. Mistake 4, forgetting contingency. You estimate $400,000 for phase 1. You are confident, no buffer. Then the model accuracy hits. You need 4 extra weeks. Now you are $150,000 over budget. You eat the cost. Lesson, always include contingency. Mistake 4, contingency is too large. You estimate $400,000 base plus $50,000, which is equal to $600,000. Client says that's way too expensive. We will hire someone else. You lose the deal because you're scared of risks. Better, estimate the most likely scenario. Use 20 to 25% contingency, which is much better, and the reception of it is also much better by the client. Mistake 4 is not updating estimates. You estimate in week 1, you stick to it. By week 8, you have new information. You know things you didn't know before. You have 3 pieces of real data. Data quality is great, model is converging well, but integration is slower than expected. Net effect, risks are low. You might finish faster, but you don't update the estimate. You still say 16 weeks, even though you now think it's 14 weeks. Result, you finish early, client is happy, but you have been conservative the whole time when you could have been communicating progress. Better, update the estimate with each POC delivery with new data, share the updates with the client. We are now estimating 14 weeks because of better than expected data quality. Client feels like you are on top of the things. Mistake 6 is no risk differentiation. You identify 20 risks, you treat them all the same. You spend time on low impact risks while ignoring high impact risks. Better, use the risk register, prioritize by risk score, focus on the high score risks. Those are what can actually hurt you. So you have estimated 16 weeks with $480,000. Risk register is there, identified and mitigated. PO is ready to sign. Now what? The approval flow. First is you present estimate to the client. The PM presents decomposition, risks, contingencies. Client asks numbers, you defend numbers, client feels confident. Client approves the estimate, email from Jane Doe, approved, let's proceed. Signals intent to move forward. Then you draft the PO. Your team prepares PO document based on agreement, agreed estimate, scope, milestones. PO references SOW and BRD. Then step 4 is client reviews and signs PO, sent to Jane Doe and finance. Finance reviews payment terms, verifies budgets, legal reviews if needed. This takes around 3 to 5 days typically. Then step 5 is PO is executed, both parties sign. Now it's a legal commitment. Kickoff can begin. So from estimate to kickoff, that's around 3 weeks of time. The PO is not bureaucracy, it's alignment. It says we agree on what we are building, how much it costs, and how we will pay for it. No surprises, no arguments later, both parties are protected. Estimation is a discipline, not an art, not a guess. So here's what you have learned in this module. Decompose the work into estimatable pieces. Use multiple estimation techniques. Converge on similar numbers. Build a risk register. Identify top risks, mitigation, and contingency strategies. Calculate contingencies. Present your estimate transparently. Show the decomposition, show the risks, show the contingency. Defend your estimate without folding on price. Hold the line because you believe in your numbers. Structure payment milestones tied to deliverables. Align incentives. Eighth is use the PO as your legal contract. Clear terms, no surprises. When you do this right, you win deals because client trusts your number. You deliver on time and on budget. You make profit. Clients are happy. You build reputation. When you skip this, you underbid and lose money. You overbid and lose deals. You blow past budgets. Clients are angry. Your reputation suffers. Do the work upfront. Do it right. Before we end the module, here are some of the tools to help with your estimation. For story points, you can use Jira, Azure DevOps, or Trello. All of these are very popular and are being used by the organizations. For risk management, Excel, Smartsheets, Confluence, whatever is best for you. Financial modeling, Excel, Tableau, and a plan. Start simple, use Excel for decomposition. Story points, again, Jira or Excel. Risk register, Excel. Budget models, Excel. So Excel is pretty good. Everyone knows about that. So as you grow, migrate to more sort of sophisticated tools. But even with fancy tools, discipline matters more than the software. So that's it for module 4. Thank you.